Nice call. Hickey, did you like his points? His 3 points were good.
Good note taking.
Yeah, I heard him flipping the paper. I said, wait, he really has notes here. Good. A lot of people call up and they don't know what the hell they're saying. Thank you so much.
Thomas, you brought some kind of energy.
Thank you.
This is Matt Schneidenschel.
The legend himself, Mr. Positive.
Go, Pat, go! Go for your dreams, everybody.
I love Uncle Sam. That's my guy. That's my guy. He's always there.
Nice call. Hickey, did you like his points? His 3 points were good.
Good.
I heard him flipping the paper. I said, wait, he really has notes here. Good. A lot of people call up and they don't know what the hell they're saying. Thank you so much. 855-212-4227.
Mr. Brett Loftus.
Sports talk radio is not dying.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Shepard, thanks for hopping on. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Talking Sports with UWL Thomas. I'm your host, Thomas Graney. And today, I am joined by a very special friend of mine. Someone who's really, I believe for me, kind of been the heart and soul of the lacrosse sports scene behind the mic. He is the play-by-play voice for not only the Crosse Loggers, but now the Crosse Steam, and also brings insightful and amazing color commentary to UWL football games alongside truly, I believe, one of the best, and that's Drew Kelly for UWL football games, a broadcaster who really knows how to tell the story of the game in real time. And ladies and gentlemen, that is none other than Tyler Bailke that joins me right now for today's episode. Tyler, it's great to have you on the show, man. I've been wanting to get you on the show for some time, and glad it worked out in both of our favors. So yeah, welcome to Talking Sports with UWL Thomas in the podcast.
That was great, man. Thank you. I never had an intro like that before.
Hey, it's something new I'm trying to do with our guests too, just to bring some more energy and juice. You know, it wasn't nearly as punchy and as filled with juice as the Brett Loftus one. So for folks that don't know,
that's tough to beat.
Tyler has watched a little bit of it too, and I'm sure he could say some good things about it. But that is the most recent episode, by the way, folks, for a small plug that I put out both on Spotify and YouTube, Talking Sports with UWL Thomas. I sat down with Banana Ball and Texas Tailgaters play-by-play man Brett Loftus, and I had a really fun time with that. But yeah, didn't really bring enough energy as I did with him. Granted, I just got done with work not too long ago too, so.
That's all right.
It was a busy shift, but
anyway, I'll give you a pass this time. Don't worry.
Next time I bring you on though, there'll be a lot more juice, especially if I'm not working prior. But nonetheless, folks, I digress. Let's get right into it, Tyler. So for the listening and viewing audience as a whole, Tyler, can you just take us all the way back to the beginning? Take us all the way back, even as far back as like, how did you first get into sports broadcasting?
Man, I wish I had a more like cinematic answer to how I started, but it kind of all came together. I just started college, freshman year, and I was going to transfer to UWL, and originally it was for sport management, and I just wanted to work in sports. I played sports my whole life, growing up all the way up to high school, baseball especially. That was from I was like 5 years old, t-ball until senior year in high school. But I knew I didn't have the skill or talent anymore to continue to play further in the level. But I knew I always wanted to be in it. I wanted to be involved in it and work in it one way or another. And so originally the goal was sport management. And then it kind of shifted. I don't know if it was a certain night where I had a dream about it and I slept a little bit different and I woke up with this idea or what, but it kind of came to me sophomore year. This very second I transferred here, I said, I'm going to switch majors and I'm going to try sports broadcasting. We're going to try and give this thing a ride. And man, what a decision that was for me. I do remember as a little kid, though, this is true. I think my dad can back me up on this. I had a little like voice recorder, like tape recorder, and I would make up Brewers games in my head. I was like 5 years old at the time, and I was pretending I was Bob Uecker. So maybe this was always the calling, and I had no idea. But I would make up like just random scenarios in my head, like it's 3-2 and Ryan Braun's at the plate, and then I would make up a Miller Lite ad on top of it too, just saying like Miller Lite tastes greatness, and I was trying to sound like Bob Uecker as a 6-year-old me, but that's kind of how it started. Like sophomore year in college when I transferred here, I worked before I actually moved here. I joined a small Wisconsin league. I call it the minor leagues of Northwoods League Baseball, the Dairyland Collegiate League. There's just 6 teams. It's a bunch of collegiate guys, but it's like usually lower divisions, like Division two, Division three. Um, Playing together, same concept, full summer schedule season. And I wouldn't even stick to a team. I was calling every single game every day. I was traveling to one of the 6 different cities in Wisconsin and just kind of starting. That's kind of just how it went. Just winged it, just to see what happened. And then I think it went well, had some positive feedback. And so we're like, all right, let's take this to lacrosse now. And then joined the WKTY Sports Radio here in Lacrosse as part
Yes,
of
sir.
Midwest Family. And I just started as a board operator. I just wanted a job. I didn't really, I just wanted a nice little part-time job. One of the advisors at UWL hooked me up with that job just to work. And then
Hmm.
I reached out as a simple email. As you mentioned, Drew Kelly, who does UWL football and also high
Hmm.
school football. He was
Yep.
doing high school football by himself. He had zero help. It was just a one-man show. So I simply emailed him. I said, "Do you need a guy? Let me be your guy. I can try to be your guy." And he's like, "Sure, let's come over for a game. We'll meet and we'll let this thing play out." So I think I
Hmm.
did 2 or 3 high school games when I first transferred.
Okay.
And then he's like, "Do you want to do a college game?" I had to fill in for Terry Erickson, who's very well known around lacrosse.
Hmm.
Um, I had to fill in for him. He wasn't going to be making it one game in River Falls. And then
Yes.
that game was a crazy game. They blocked the field goal to win the conference
I remember
championship.
that. That
That was
that
my
that.
first, that's my
Oh,
first
so
ever college game.
that's crazy. I did not personally know that at all, Tyler. Like
Yeah.
genuinely.
Yeah.
That.
So that was like, I mean, you talk about getting along well, having that experience at the same time as him and I doing this is like, man, this is pretty fun. And then a year went
Exactly.
by. Um, a year went by and they said the next season, they're like, do you want to join and be the main color guy? Like Terry's done. We're gonna move on from him, and Drew thinks it should be you. I was like, okay, great, cool, sign me up. So we did it. This was technically this past fall, 2025 was my 3rd year of doing it. Technically for football, high school football / college football, second full season for UWL. But man, it's been an absolute blast. And then one thing just kind of led to another, right? It just keeps
Hmm.
it keeps going and going and opening and opening. So once I joined that, then I literally again sent an email to the athletic director and to assistant coaches for UWL baseball. I said, "Hey, you don't have a guy, you need a guy. Let me be your guy." And then that worked out. Done that for the last 2 years. This will be my 3rd season coming up in a couple of months for them. And then that led to this here later. There's as simple as they knew their former guy Cooper Lipsky, great gentleman.
Yeah.
Had a lot of good conversations with him a couple times. Um, they knew he was gone. It was open, and it was actually UWL that recommended it, the loggers to me about me to them to Ben and Chris, and here we are, going to be coming back for a second season. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you knocked out a lot of my
That was a
questions.
lot.
That was
Yeah,
that was a lot of questions that you kind of knocked out. Or
my apologies. I
no.
tend to go on tangents. It's part of my job.
Hey, it's all good, man. It's all good, brother. My next question for you, Tyler, has play-by-play in the sports broadcasting realm and sphere always been your goal, or did that just, as you mentioned, um, just a minute ago, did that really just kind of come later or with time?
I I think it kind of came later, and it's always like it's funny because someone like my mom will always be like, you got to have a plan, you got to have this, and this figured out, how many ever years down the road. To be honest with you, like 20-year-old me, even 19-year-old me, had no idea, like no idea. But it was kind of like I even mentioned this. I was doing it for fun before I transferred to UWL, even way back. I was calling my high school teams games, just throwing on YouTube. I think it's still on YouTube somewhere. I have no idea. That would be very interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know if you want to listen to that, but
Oh no.
it
Oh
was
no.
that was the first, but that was like the first time ever. I think it was one of my former high school teachers just gave me a camera and a microphone and said, "Here, go to work, have fun with it." And so I did. And I think it's just for me, I didn't know if it was a plan, but like I just enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, let's just keep things going. And whenever someone asks me something along that, or it's like, what do you want to do with this? How many years down the road? I just tell them to keep going until you
Yeah.
can't anymore, until this doesn't feel fun anymore, until it starts feeling like work. That's when I'll stop. If
Hmm.
as long as it doesn't feel like work for me, I'm going to keep doing this.
Exactly. Exactly. My next question for you, Tyler, is this. You've called, obviously, as we've mentioned, for the listening and viewing audience. You've mentioned this. You've called games, obviously, for the Lacrosse Loggers and the Lacrosse Steam. I'll still say brand new, relatively new, you could say, um, women's team for lacrosse, women's summer collegiate softball team.
Third
And
season's coming up. I would say new for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and you're on the mic, obviously, for UWL football, but you may have answered this too, but you can answer this, I guess, through a different lens or realm this time. But when did you realize that this truly was the lane you wanted to be in? Like,
Honestly, I think it was that college game that I brought up, my
mm-hmm,
first one, when I was just a filler. That wasn't even like confirmed. I had so much fun with that. The amount of preparation, I over prepared the heck out of that game for no reason. I don't think I've ever prepared more in my life for a game than that one that I did, because this is collegiate football. I mean, this is like the WIC. Like I thought this was the obviously still great doing it now, but like in my head, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I'm doing this like for CBS or something. But
mm-hmm,
that's just how over prepared I wanted to be. And then going through that and then just seeing the game like finish like that, a blocked
mm-hmm,
field goal, and I still have the clip on my phone of like our reactions to it
mm-hmm.
afterwards. Man, that was a moment where I'm just like, okay, this is fun.
And not only that, I think that clip as well, if I'm reading your wavelength correctly, it is on WKTY Sports' website too, unless I'm thinking of a different one. Oh no,
Maybe.
I'm thinking of the Whitewater one. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the
Same
Whitewater one.
season too. But
Yes.
that's how crazy it was.
Yes.
Like just and so the fact that I was just to be a little glimpse of that, I wasn't even there. Imagine, oh gosh, I couldn't imagine being there. But I will say, I mean, I was there this year. They did the same thing. It was another walk-off field goal from Michael Stack, and then they said they're going to rename it to Michael Stack Field because that guy just doesn't miss there.
Yeah.
But it was still a really cool moment. But I think, yeah, that game 2 years ago, man, there was something about it where it's like you just couldn't help yourself but smile and just
Hmm.
feel like this is awesome. And that whole drive back, as long as it was, I didn't care. I was just, I mean, just jolly as could be
Of course.
on the whole drive back. It didn't matter how long it was. That could have
Hmm.
taken 4 or 5 hours. Who cares? But that was a really fun day, and that's kind of where, I was like, this, I could do this for a long time. If every game was like this, are you kidding me?
Oh yeah. Hmm. I'd only I'd only want to if only you were with the UWL Eagle football team on their bus, right? To get their reaction.
Yeah.
But alas, as broadcasters, you got to get your own mode of transportation. But anyways, my next question for you, Tyler, is a really deep level question. So feel free to take your time when answering this. But these next kind of three or four kind of fit under the same realm, though. But what's the biggest difference you believe between play-by-play and color commentary when you look at the sports broadcasting sphere as a whole? I would say.
That's good because I do both. So I've understood both roles. I think well. I don't know. You could ask you could ask people I've worked with, but no, I think the biggest thing like play by play, call it as it is, say what's happening, and it's more of kind of I like to change things, but like the average overall realm of play by play is you call what's happening, and it's more serious no nonsense, just stick to your lane, get the job done. And then the color commentary, I like the word color because I think this is probably, I don't know if this is the actual reason why they call it or not, but you're supposed to paint the picture. You're supposed to explain what's happening behind the scenes. All right, the play-by-play called this first down run for a 4-yard gain. Color guy, well, why did they do that? Or what did they see differently? I always tend to not watch the ball when I'm doing color commentary. I'm tending to look at everything else.
Mhm.
What defense are they running? How many did they blitz? Did they bring 4-man rush, 5-man rush, little things like that? Am I seeing something on the sidelines? Is the coach losing his mind throwing his headset? Or like just little things like that where the play-by-play guy can't do because he's watching the ball. That's his job, is to watch the ball. And obviously that's just like a football thing, but you can apply the same thing for basketball. I did just this past week. UW Whitewater came to town against UWL. I saw you at that game across the
Yes,
bleachers.
sir.
I was doing it with ESPN Radio, which was a really fun time, and I was color in that game. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna ask. Like, yeah, I obviously, as Tyler mentioned, I was at that game and I saw him with a unfamiliar dude, and I was like, and I saw an ESPN sign, I was like, this kind of transitions to my question. How exactly did that come about? How did you reach out to them? Did they reach out
No,
to you? What exactly was that all about? Because
they
I'm very genuinely curious about this.
it's kind of the same thing of like how I got the loggers gig almost. It was UWL. It was David Johnson and Eric Kunick, as head of the communications for UWL athletics. Simple email. They're like, "Hey, you busy Wednesday?" Because ESPN Wisconsin still currently doing a tour of all the WIAC schools. And so
Really?
every Wednesday, they're going to a different campus to do a college basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that Wednesday, they were so happened to be in La Crosse, and they wanted a student representative of each school.
Mm-hmm.
So UWL immediately, the first person they thought was me, which was awesome. I mean, that's super grateful and appreciative of that I'm the first name and face that came to mind to them. And it was a simple email, and I said, yeah, absolutely. Let me get in contact with the guy. Jesse was his name. Great dude. ESPN Wisconsin, they got it figured out. There's no denying that. And that was a really fun hour and a half. But then it's going back to the same thing where his job was he's watching the ball, he's calling who has what, like who scored, when, where on the court. And then for me, it was, well, how did that play set up? Or what did I see differently? Little things like that. And it's really cool to see how it meshes so well. You see, the great duos of all time and how they're able to mesh. As
Mm-hmm.
controversial as they are sometimes, I think Joe Buck and Troy Aikman do a really good job of just meshing well. Whether you like them or not as people, that's one thing, but the fact I think they do their job really well.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the advice and insight too, as somebody looking to go into the sports broadcasting or public address world, sports talk radio world, the sports media landscape as a whole. We'll just say that is really, really valuable insight, um, and hopefully the audience as a whole, you guys can take away something from that as well. So, Tyler, this next question for you. What does your game day prep actually look like? Between calling UWL football games, that's color commentary, between doing play-by-play for the Crosse Loggers or lacrosse and I should say lacrosse team. How does it differentiate between the high school prep level, the collegiate level with UWL football, and then more of the summer collegiate and minor league? You could throw that in there for, I guess, for the loggers and steam. Kind of detail that a little bit for the audience.
For sure. I would say the hardest is high school, and it's not because of like the bigger the game, the harder it might be to prepare and cover and stuff like that. I think it's kind of the opposite. And it's because of the amount of resources that you're able to have. And although it's a very difficult job, you can even look at the professionals now doing it. And I mean, Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit are calling a game tonight, Indiana and Miami, right? The amount of resources that they can get of just stats and notes and the amount of like interviews that they get to have throughout the week. They have meetings and stuff like that. a guy like me doesn't do that. We don't have, like I'm not having a production meeting every Wednesday before our Saturday kickoff for UWL football. Now, Drew, my partner Drew, does have a quick interview with our then head coach, Matt Janis, who has now moved on, but he had that about, I think it was like on Thursdays, they would talk about it on like Wednesdays and Thursdays, but that was something small and that was just for a pregame show. But we would kind of text back and forth about that, whatever he would give us for answers, but that was really it. So I would say for me, and every sport's different, but like for football, if we're talking about a Saturday game for UWL football, we start by getting rosters about Monday to Tuesday, the two deeps of who's starting, who's healthy. UWL tended to not be 100% honest, and I don't think other teams were too. I think it's always going to be like that. Nobody's honest about who's actually healthy because perfect example is when Kyle Haas went down. I mean, I was even trying to get to the actual source himself and started texting him, be like, "Hey, are we playing this week or what?" Nobody knew. He never gave me an actual answer, but so that kind of starts Monday, Tuesday, and then we get very thankful for what EWL does. They have a whole packet full of media relations notes, not just for myself, but for everybody, news channels who come to do that. We get that about Wednesday,
Like
or
a program
Thursday.
guide of sort, or like how would you describe it?
Yes, but like on steroids. And so, I mean, whatever history you wanted to know about a certain stat of like, what's the record or like what's UWL's record the last 10 years when they lead in the second quarter? 47-13, something like that. Like small things like that, statistics things. They had a whole page about Matt Janis himself, about to his playing days at UW Platteville, like things like that, and where he was assistant at and before he came to UWL and stuff like that. And then they would go through what our quarterback had, our backup running backs, our starting running backs, every single receiver, stuff like that. And it was about a good 8 to 9 pages worth, sometimes 10, depending on the game. So you kind of look through that, and then I always try to go myself and see if there are any different statistics. I'll print those out myself. And then I always believe in being over prepared is good, but to me, sometimes less is more too, where it's like I just like to just call the game. And I think this applies really well when it comes to loggers and Steam.
Mhm.
We have a game every single day.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard for someone myself to look at it and try to come up with something different. The stats aren't going to change that much from yesterday to today, right? A guy might have gone 3 for 4 yesterday. What's he going to go today? He could go 0 for 4. And then like it's not going to be that much of difference like when it comes to game notes. So I love just kind of pulling a game and reacting to it. A lot of people have different approaches. I've seen that. I've worked with people that have different approaches. I think a perfect example was the Northwoods League All-Star game that I was part of. 3 different broadcasters were selected, Madison, Wausau, and myself. We all had different methods of doing things. Very different preparation. But it worked out. I think we did a really good job, us 3 together. But it's cool. It's cool to see the difference in preparation. But I still am over prepared, but in the back of my head, I like to think less is more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you were to give any advice to young broadcasters, what would you say are the mistakes that they make early on? What mistakes do young broadcasters make early on? That's my next question for you.
I think the first thing is, and it's not even just young, but I think what you need to start first, authenticity. Enjoy the game you're calling. Not every game is going to come down to a buzzer beater or to the final play or a walk-off. I've had games this past year for the Crosse Loggers. There was in the same week, there was a game where we won 26-1 and we lost 24-3, I think it was, in the same week. That's not entertaining that's so hard for any broadcaster. So what do? I mean, you have to be like, you just have to be authentic and you have to appreciate what you're calling. It doesn't matter it's not going to be pretty. It's not always going to be pretty. And you can't let that show sometimes where you're not a fan of the game. You have to be a fan of the game first. I think that's really what it comes down to. If you're not a fan of the game, then what are we doing here? in my eyes, if you treat it like a profession, like I said earlier, I don't treat this like work. I treat this like I'm a fan going to these events, having the privilege to call these events. I think that's a better approach to have it than, well, this is a profession, this is my job, this sucks, this isn't an entertaining game. I'm not going to get a memorable moment that I can put on my highlight reel. If you're thinking of that like that, and I just don't think this is for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, just one thing to add on, like in any realm of career that you go into, um, for the entire audience, I want to emphasize this. Any career that you go into, you should be having fun in that field, right? You can
Yeah.
obviously tell, by how Tyler's talking that he's passionate about this. He has fun while doing it. And obviously he's called some big moments. So like you have to be passionate about whatever you go into. Like for sports broadcasting, are you passionate about football? Like, do you care deeply about it? Are you passionate about baseball? Are you passionate about soccer? Are you passionate about the PGA Tour? Whatever it
And
may
people
be.
can and
Go
people
ahead.
can tell too, Thomas. People can tell that right away when they're listening or watching. They
Hmm.
know. I did a my senior research project because I'll be graduating this upcoming spring. It was about what makes a good sports broadcaster or not. And the people that I interviewed, they all said they want authenticity and they want people to enjoy what they're doing
Hmm.
because they can tell if it's fake right away. They can tell if they don't like being there right away. You can hear it. You can hear it in the voice, and you can see it as well if you're watching a game, TV or radio. It both applies, but you can tell right away. And yeah, you're right. It's not even just this profession. It's whatever you wanted to do, right?
Hmm.
If you go to college, don't go to college, you do something else, you have to enjoy it because if you don't, then it's not going to be fun waking up whenever you wake up and telling yourself, "Oh, I got to go do this, I got to go do that." That has never once happened. Me waking up in my bed, I never once go, "Oh, I got to call this game today."
Hmm.
Because then I mean, then what's the point? That just that defeats the purpose. I mean, this is a privilege that what people like myself have been able, even you, what you've been able to do to do a podcast like this. You got to wake
Do.
up and want to do it. You got to
Yes.
wake up and be excited about it and be like, yeah, I get to do this. I get to have a conversation. Let's go. You get to interview so many cool people. Like
Yes.
that's great. And some might go great. Some maybe not so well, but that's
Hmm.
life. Just like myself, some games are great. Some games I've sucked. That's just life. But you have to just be able to appreciate what you do and be excited about doing it.
Well said. So my next question for you, Tyler, is when you think of sports broadcasting, when you think of, like you mentioned, some of the OGs like Kevin Harlan, Jim Nance, and Gus Johnson, just to name a few, they have their own unique style, their own unique voice. We may have already touched just a bit on this, but let's dive a little deeper into how do you find your own voice without copying others, without going, the Gus Johnson route where he's practically losing his voice by the time the end of the game comes around or whatever. Kind of dive a little deeper into that, so to speak.
I mean, it's always tough, and I think everyone would give you a different answer on how to try to find it. And I think that's what makes it good because everybody's different and trying to, and so you're trying to teach that to somebody else that Gus Johnson, Kevin Harlan, and those guys you mentioned might tell you different things on how to try to find it, which makes it so cool. I think for me, how I did it was what would it sound like in your head? Like just like if, sometimes I'll like watch a game or like even if I'm like playing a video game, what would it sound like? I'm just commentating over just talking. Just talk, 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 talk. You don't need to try to mimic like a Gus Johnson. But if it turns into something like that where you're yelling and you're excited when you're watching a game, great,
Hmm.
awesome, that's cool. If it turns out to be more like a Jim Nance style, more subtle, more softer, like lower tone, cool. I've had moments where it happens based on just the reaction to the game. I've had
Hmm.
lower moments, and then there's times where I'm screaming my lung off and I don't have a voice the next game, because someone just hit a walk-off grand slam. Like it's just kind of how you watch the game. Like just what's your initial reaction to it? Don't try to overthink things. What's your initial reaction to it? And that's usually how I tend to look at it. I try to not have too much of like a voice change when I'm having a conversation with someone. I mean, even if we're off the air, I'm going to talk to you the same. I try
Mhm.
to at least of like,
Yeah.
I don't think there should be a switch like that. I think it's just whoever you are, that's what it should be. Don't overthink it. Don't try to do too much.
Mhm.
What's your reaction to this play happening right here? I think that's how you find it.
So like you mentioned, like just being authentic, being
Yeah,
just who you are.
you.
And that's something I know I've had him on the podcast before, maybe you or again the listening and viewing audience as a whole have seen the interviews with David Shepard, the SiriusXM NBA host. That's something he mentioned it too as well. Like being authentic, being yourself, being uniquely you, that is what sticks out most to people, right?
Yeah.
So I
Because
cannot
people,
go ahead.
sorry, Thomas, because people are looking for something different a lot of times. They don't want the same old song and dance over and over again because people are going to be like, oh, it kind of reminds me of that person. Well,
Hmm.
you don't want that. You want it to be reminded of you.
Exactly. Exactly. So we only got a few minutes left here again for folks. That Tyler Bailke joining us today on Talking Sports. Again, very honored, very delighted to have the play-by-play man for both the Lacrosse Steam and the Lacrosse Loggers, as well as color commentator for UWL Football and high school sports. So, Tyler, with just the few minutes that we have left here, I will kind of do a little rapid fire of questions at you here.
Bring
So
it.
the first one, we're going to bring a lot at you. How do you balance stats, storytelling, and spontaneity, and being spontaneous? Spontaneity. What's one thing fans don't realize goes into calling a game? What's the hardest part of calling a game live? How do you handle mistakes on the air? And ever had a what just happened moment during a broadcast? So we'll throw rapid fire those five at you. And
Yeah.
I know we really don't have a whole lot of time
I
at
think
all,
I get.
but if you can, in about 4 minutes, answer maybe those five questions.
Okay. I like telling stories first when it comes to over stats. I like using stats to back up, but I like telling stories first. I think as a goal for us, we're trying to be entertainers and to entertain. That's why we're there, and that's what we get hired to do.
Yeah,
Boy, what were the other ones?
I got you. So,
Yeah.
what's one thing fans don't realize goes into calling a game? What's the hardest part of actually calling a game live at any variety or level? How do you handle
Mhm.
when you make mistakes on the air? And
Okay.
then, can you just describe a like what just happened moment like during a
Yeah.
broadcast? Have you ever had
Uh,
one of those? So.
yeah. I think the hardest thing that people may not understand is like it is the amount of preparation and like storytellings of like, oh, how did you find that out? How'd you do this? When you have to go find that yourself, and I think those information, those little tidbits are always cool to do. Um, I think the most challenging thing for me, um, is something that like you don't know 100% about. And that leads, I think that answers kind of two questions of like, if I don't know something, I'm still gonna say it, and because I'd rather say it and be wrong, and then that's okay to correct it later. Then be like, I don't know, and then leave people in a loop. Say it with your chest, say it with confidence, and if you're wrong, my bad, I messed up. Let's move
Exactly.
on. The biggest like crazy moment that I've had is actually this past year. We had there were a couple. There's two quick ones. One, I
Oh,
ate a bug on air as a single was happening. That was very interesting. Try to react to
was this for the loggers or Steam?
loggers.
So
Uh
you had a Cooper Lipsky type moment if you saw his Instagram, the little BTS.
yeah, yeah. I swallowed a bug.
What did that really fast? What was because again we're running a little short on time. What was that experience like? And still having to call the game too in the process.
I was trying not to cough because it was just like, "Ugh," and then and it was so hard to just like not
Yeah.
say a swear word on air.
Oh,
And
very
then,
much.
another one was there was a spider right in front of my desk at the loggers booth, and this is a crazy one. I've never seen anything like it. It was like a gray, red, like scary, and I tried not to react because usually my buddy Sam who's my helper, my stats guy, he would kill them all. He didn't kill this one, but a different intern decided to grab it and pick it up.
My
Well,
gosh.
don't do that. It started bouncing everywhere. I'll send you the clip later. It started
Please.
bouncing everywhere,
Yes.
and then it jumped back on the paper. And this is all happening live during a pitching change, mind you. We are still on air. And then it jumped out of the window, and I think it landed on somebody. Complete mess. And
Wow.
I've never been more scared in my entire life. And I
Yeah.
pat myself on the back to somehow keep composure because I'm not good with stuff like that. But the fact that this was all during a pitching change too, of like you're just watching a guy warm up right now for the Waterloo Bucks, and meanwhile, all hell broke loose in the booth. Like, and the people had no idea, but it was just chaos. But that was certainly a moment of all time.
Wow. Well, that is all the questions that I at least have for you right now, Tyler. I would love to get you back on again to answer
Yeah,
some of the more of the questions that we weren't able to get to, at least in our time today. But folks, you can catch Tyler Bailke, as mentioned, at Crosse Steam and Crosse Logger games this summer. Our season starts on Memorial Day, 3:05 first pitch game for the Loggers. Steam start June 10th. I believe that game is at a 6:35 first pitch as well. So Tyler
thanks for reminding me.
Bailke, once again, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. I cannot wait to do some work with you, by the way, folks, this summer, doing a little color commentary and play-by-play as well. So there's a slight plug. Still remaining humble and everything. But
There you go.
one final time, folks, and hopefully to see him again, Tyler Bailke. Thanks again,
Thank you.
Tyler.
Thank you.